Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of This Week in History on the Four Lads Network, when today we will be covering August the 4th to August the 10th. And again, it's my great pleasure to welcome my co-host for the show, who's here for the season, Stephen Miller. How are you, mate?
Aye, fine, Davie. How yourself?
I've been better, probably because the season started.
yeah, there's always a downer, isn't there?
So for anyone who hasn't watched this particular podcast, the premise is quite simple. We look at the date for the next week, each individual date, and we look back in Rangers history on an event that happened on that day. And we're going to start with August the 4th, because this podcast is going out on Tuesday, August the 4th. And we're going to go to August the 4th, 1962. But you don't need to remember 1962 because it's a birth date. So Ian Ferguson was born in Lanarkshire. Now, this is not the Ian Ferguson of the 9 in a row era that won 10 league titles and is in the Hall of Fame. This is a different Ian Ferguson. What do you remember of this Ian Ferguson, Stephen?
Yeah, no, I remember obviously when we signed him in 84. He was obviously one of the best players in the league from the previous season with Dundee. He was an up and coming young star. And obviously, I think it was him and Cammy Fraser, and they both went to tribunal before we managed to decide, or they decided how much we were going to have to pay for him. So he was a good player for Dundee. He was a good goal scorer, quite athletic and fast.
He scored a lot of goals against us, didn't he? He actually scored quite a few goals against us.
Yeah, he scored 2 goals to knock us out the Scottish Cup in 83-84 season. So didn't like him very much then. But he did score 2 against Celtic when Dundee beat them 5-1 the season before. So he was only 17-year-old. So obviously he had a good pedigree at Dundee, good grounding there, and he was seen as like an excellent addition to the strike force when we got him. Jock Wallace bought him in summer of 84.
Yeah, I must admit, I remember at the time I was really excited about him coming to Rangers.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones he scored so often against us that you'd rather he was in your team than against you. I thought he was going to be a star. Yeah,
absolutely. A blonde-haired striker. I was going, we've now got Colin Steen back, but obviously the way it panned out didn't quite work out the same way. But you left us with a couple of good memories.
Absolutely, and I'll just mention his stats before we talk about probably that main memory. So he only stayed with Rangers until 1986. He only had a couple of years at the club. And he actually drifted out the team quite quickly. He didn't actually remain a regular for all that great length of time. So 44 appearances, 11 goals, 1 medal, which was the League Cup in 1984-85. But that 1 League Cup is probably the memory that everyone's got of Ian Ferguson that we signed from Dundee. Do you remember Jock Wallace's last trophy as manager?
It was his last trophy, yeah, and we won the League Cup twice in the same year, which is unusual, having won it in the March against Celtic with Ali McCoy's hat trick. So it was bucketing down that day. I was in the Rangers end in the covered terracing, but it was just rain the whole way. The pitch was skiddy, as they call it, and it was a pretty poor game, if I've got to be honest. Craig Patterson's only trophy as captain as well, I think.
Right. John McClelland took the huff in the presentation at the end, because he been stripped of the captaincy. The thing that I'm just going to show the clip of the goal just in a wee minute, but the thing that I remember most about that season was actually the change of strip. So when we won the League Cup in the March, when McCoy got his hat against it, we wore the pinstripes, the one that the new strips based on. Yeah. And then when Ferguson signed, he was one of the first players I saw wearing the
crew neck, the cover over.
The C.R. Smith strip, as I called it.
Yeah.
And it's really popular now as a kind of retro strip, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was obviously we played with it for a couple of seasons, so 2-3 seasons, I think it was still the strip when Souness took over.
Yeah.
I've never been one to. I know that a lot of people are right into the strips and all this kind of stuff. So I get mixed up with them all, like especially from the late 90s onwards. You know.
Yeah, especially away strips.
Yeah.
So, Jock Wallace's last trophy was won thanks to a goal by the man born on August the 4th, 1962, Ian Ferguson. And thanks to the wonder of the Rangers archives and Stephen Miller, we can show you the goal right now.
Russell. Here's Fraser. Redford far too hastily. Russell to Fraser. Dawson to Cooper. Controlled it very well. Here's Redford. Ferguson scores! 1-0 for Rangers. Right on half-time, and to the delight of that huge throng of Rangers supporters.
God, those were the days in that terracing, weren't they?
No, it's brilliant. Can't he beat that?
Yeah. So I would probably say that was Ferguson's highlight as a Rangers player. Although maybe Inter Milan,
the two goals against Inter Milan, but again, it's not as well remembered simply because we didn't go through that night. It was like another glorious failure.
Yeah,
but he obviously he had a great scoring record in Europe, not just for Rangers, didn't he? So
I was actually going to say that when he kind of fell out the team, it ended up Jock Wallace's second season in charge. He didn't actually play that much. Bobby Williamson played a lot more. McCoy was starting to establish himself. When Souness took over, it was pretty obvious that he didn't rate Ferguson. It was time for him to go. He put him on loan to Dundee, back to Dundee.
Yeah.
And then Dundee United offered quite a bit of money for him. So he ended up coming back for his loan at Dundee and going to Dundee United instead.
Yep.
And he scored against Barcelona in the Nou Camp. He scored in the European semi-final. He scored the winner against us, if I remember rightly.
Yep. And he scored. He scored against Bayern Munich for Hearts at Tynecastle. The only goal. So if you ask which Scottish player has scored the winning goals against Inter Milan, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich, he's your answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
and he scored in the Scottish Cup final in 1991. He scored the winning goal in Richard Goff's debut for Dundee United.
That's right, for Dundee United against us. So he was a player that I don't know if it was a case of right player at the wrong time or what, because
he was a big occasion player, I thought, wasn't he? Yeah. The bigger the game, the more he kind of stood out a bit. But the games against the kind of run of the mill opposition, he wasn't as effective as we'd hoped he would be.
Yeah, so Ian Ferguson, he'll never be a Hall of Fame player. He'll never be one of these iconic names. But lived the dream, played for the team that he supported, scored a winner in a Hampden Cup final. So
the stuff we'd all love to do, yeah.
Absolutely.
And obviously he's on Rangers TV now and again with
he does the
hospitality. Quite good. Yeah. It's quite good as well.
Yeah, so August the 4th, 1962, the other Ian Ferguson, probably the one that isn't remembered as much as the 10-year-old hero in 1962. So we'll go to August the 5th, and we're going to stick to the same surname. We're going to talk about another Ferguson. We're going to go to August the 5th, 1967. This time it's not a birthday, it's a debut. So August the 5th, 1967, new Rangers signing Alec Ferguson makes his first appearance in a Rangers shirt in a pre-season defeat against Arsenal at Highbury. Alec Ferguson, the player, not Alec Ferguson, the manager, obviously, who's an absolute world icon as a manager.
Yeah.
What about Alec Ferguson, the Rangers player? Yeah. And just while you're talking about it, I'm just going to stick up a little picture of him, showing you Govan-born Fergie, the highlight of his life up until that point in time, the day he signed for Rangers. There he's there with Scott Simon and the family manager, George Farm. And then there's a little picture of him in his debut at Highbury wearing the number 9, which I'm sure is what he dreamed of as a kid.
I'm sure that's exactly what he did, yeah. And it was, I think it was a time, obviously, that he signed in the summer where we didn't have a centre forward because get rid of Jim Forrest and George McLean, so he was brought in to, because there would have been obviously a lot of criticism over the Cup Winners' Cup final in the summer where we'd lost to Bayern Munich with Roger Hind at centre forward. So we went for the top scorer in Scottish football at the time. He had been for like a couple of seasons. Scored a hat-trick against Rangers at Ibrox for St Johnstone, and when they beat us 3-2. So he was obviously a Govan-born boy, so he was a kind of natural choice. But to call him ungainly would probably be kind. He was a kind of, he played with his elbows even more than Gaza did. He was he just put his elbows like that and try to keep the opposition away. But he had a good scoring record for Rangers, but obviously like I don't think he got on particularly well with Davie White, the manager, especially latterly, and obviously he was quite outspoken, I believe, as a player. He was in the players' union when it just started up and all this kind of stuff, and I don't think that kind of endeared them to the management side. But again, as a player, we bought Steen, Colin Steen, in October of '68 in Ferguson's second season, and straight away Steen was the number one centre forward for the Rangers.
I think it's probably fair to say that Ferguson's stats are quite impressive in terms of goals
to game,
goals to games, and I think he was relatively popular amongst the Rangers support at the time. It's just that Colin Steen became more popular. Colin Steen was just simply better than him.
You know, just the start Steen had just kind of made everybody forget. But Ferguson still contributed, you know. So
I'll throw his stats as a Rangers player in. So excluding things like the Glasgow Cup, the main competition, 66 games, 34 goals. That's
excellent. He was top scorer for the club in his first season.
24 goals he scored in season 67, 68. When Rangers went 33 games unbeaten, didn't lose in the league till the last day of the season, and yet still didn't win the championship. And he scored 6 goals in 9 European appearances as well. So he obviously had an eye for goal. Just unfortunate. I think it was a sign of the times. Rangers had a really good team, but unfortunately just couldn't seem to go over the line in any of the tournaments. And
that's it. I think he scored the first goal in the Davie White era, which was against Cologne at Ibrox in the European game. He scored that night. But he did though. I mean, even the week after his debut, we got beat 3-0 by Arsenal. Eric Sorensen made his debut that day as well, and we got lambasted in the press as if it was a disastrous result, you know. But the following week, we played Eintracht Frankfurt, who obviously we had a history with from the European Cup in 1960, and we beat them 5-2, and Ferguson scored a hat-trick in his first Ibrox game. So he was a good goal scorer, just maybe not quite top notch for. And I think he admitted that himself later on in life. You know, his limitations as a player, shall we say?
Yeah, well, my name drops slightly here, but Colin Steen wrote the foreword for my recent book, the book I'm just bringing out just now, and I talked to him about his, not as part of the foreword of the book, but I actually asked him, how did you get on with Alec Ferguson? Because obviously the two of you were competing for the same shirt, and he said, my first memory of Alec Ferguson was like me and him get sent off for fighting.
Ibrox when Steve played for him. The two of them were fighting and both get sent off.
So I think the two of them had a bit of temper right now. But it's a wee bit sad the way Ferguson's Rangers career ended, obviously, with the Scottish Cup final, getting blamed for Celtic's goal early on. He lost Bill when he lit a corner, lost 4-0 in an absolute disaster of a day, and he never ever played for Rangers again.
No, that was his last game,
I think he was a little bit bitter about it, wasn't he? A little bit.
Very much. And obviously there was, like he carried the can for it on his own, basically, for not marking. Even though he said later on it should have been Ronnie McKinnon, but I think it was Ferguson who had been detailed to pick him up, and he just didn't do it.
But I think he'll be remembered as a decent Rangers centre forward in a good team, but didn't win anything.
As your book points out.
And I suppose if he thought he was unlucky to leave Rangers and he should have stayed at Rangers longer, he didn't really do much as a player after it to justify Rangers keeping him. Falkirk and United.
That's it. Yeah, no, that was it. He did. I remember him playing against Rangers for Falkirk in the Scottish Cup a couple of seasons later, and he was getting in hard on every player. From what I remember, he would. I think he wanted to try and get one over on them. But
do you think the sort of bitterness about his departure contributed to how he was like as a manager against Rangers for Aberdeen?
I think it definitely did at the time. I think he probably mellowed more in later life.
Yeah.
But I think at the time he was still very bitter about how he'd been treated and let go. But again, that's
I've been asked in a few different podcasts about where the Rangers Aberdeen bitterness and rivalry really started. Because when I was a wee boy, there wasn't this Rangers Aberdeen.
No, nothing I remember.
I go back. I think Alex Ferguson was all to do with it.
Yeah, very much. He was I think the '79 League Cup final.
Yeah,
started. That's what I think. So, and Alex Ferguson was manager of Aberdeen that day, and I don't think he took it too well of his beating them in the last minute and Rugby being sent off. So, I think the bitter pill maybe he get bigger that day. Yeah. And
although I think to finish on Alex Ferguson, I think it is fair to say though in recent years he's started to appear again at Ibrox as a supporter and start to do things on Rangers television and stuff. So I think it's obvious that he's as he's got older he's remembered his roots again.
Yes. I think he always did remember his root, where he came from and that, but he couldn't show it really when he was elsewhere. But and he's obviously quite friendly with Derek McInnes as well, because obviously he was at Tynecastle a couple of times last season. And Derek McInnes was mentioning that he'd a good relationship with him, so maybe some of that will rub off.
Well, you couldn't get a much better manager to bounce things off of, could you? Because for all that we've talked about him as a player, as a manager, there's very few that can compare.
I think it was disappointing, obviously, when he turned us down in '83. But that's one of the things.
Yeah. Sliding door moment.
Yep.
So Alex Ferguson. So that was two Fergusons we started with, but not the usual Fergusons that these podcasts talk about. Two slightly different things. So we'll go to August the 6th. Maybe bring it a little bit closer to recent times. But it's not that recent. August the 6th, 1989. And I'll say it right now. My favourite ever pre-season friendly that I've attended.
By far the most competitive. So Trevor Stevens scores the only goal as Rangers beat Tottenham Hotspur 1-0 at a sold-out Ibrox in a pre-season friendly. What can I say about the summer of 19? Obviously, we just signed Maurice Johnson. And we've probably talked about this already in this history show, but what do you remember of that friendly? It wasn't a friendly. No, it wasn't a friendly. I'm sure it was a Sunday.
It was
because I was able to go because I worked every Saturday, so I was able to go, and it was a lovely sunny day. And to be honest, it started off fairly mundane for the slow-paced friendlies that started. But then it just, especially early second half, it just all kicked off, and for about 20-25 minutes, it was just mental. Great atmosphere. Obviously, everyone wanted to see Johnson. His first game at Ibrox, and Trevor Stevens was kind of honestly a bit of an afterthought, even though he was an England international. Had played really well for Everton, but everyone wanted to see Maurice Johnson just coming out and doing well. So I remember because of Maurice Johnson signing and that being his first game at Ibrox, the national news was there. I remember it was on ITN News. It was just bizarre. And it was also the day, I think it's fair to say, that Gaza was the public enemy number one inside. Oh, no, they get
this running battle.
Aye, and Fergie's going to get you and all this kind of thing, and Gaza got some abuse that afternoon. But it was all good fun. I think they'd clashed just as I think Rangers got a corner or something like this, and they clashed in the box, and everyone was pulling them apart. And then the referee told them to calm down. Corner came in, and Ian Ferguson ran about 10 yards just to jump into Gaza. It was brilliant, just letting them know who he was. I think they had a wee bit of history from before that, playing for the Scottish under-21s against England 21s, and so it was maybe a wee bit of history there.
Yeah, certainly, I don't think anyone inside the Rangers ends that day would have imagined Gascoigne becoming an absolute hero of the Rangers.
Just 6 years later, you could obviously tell he was a really good player, but that day Ferguson was better than him. It was Rangers played well that day, but
I'll just quickly go through the Rangers team that day. I think it was probably Graham Souness's strongest 11 at the time.
Yep, definitely.
So Woods, Stevens, Monroe, Gough, Wilkins, Butcher, Stephen, Ian Ferguson, McCoist, Johnston, and Walters. I think that was the Rangers team in 1989, wasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant side. Brilliant.
And if you look at the Tottenham, I'm not going through the whole Tottenham team, but if you look at some of the players that were in it, apart from Gascoigne, Gary Mabbutt, Gary Lineker, Paul Stewart, Chris Hughton, all international players that played.
Spurs had a really good side. Really good side then, and obviously Gaz's next 2 years with Spurs were, he had superstardom. It was the end of that season. He was starting in the World Cup in 1990 in Italy.
Yeah, but Trevor Stevens, the man that stole the day, and I'll just quickly show the goal. And for me, the thing that jumps out is the crowd reaction to a goal in a friendly.
Yeah.
Which I think tells you the way the game was played.
Scoring at that time, it's usually just a polite stand up and clap.
Yeah. So here we go.
Gary Stevens. Pace of the match certainly has quickened. Here's Trevor Stephen. And the goal which delights the Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a cup final goal.
it's incredible, isn't it? We've talked about Trevor Stephen already in this, but that Rangers team from that season, that 1989-1990 season, do you think they were as good as any of the teams in the 9 in a row?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Quality-wise, absolutely, yeah. Obviously, Gaza and Laudrup come on, and we were a bit more, but as a team. That was a team. You had Wilkins and Ian Ferguson playing at the top of their form. Fantastic midfield. Johnson, McCoist, Mark Walters, who's a phenomenal player for Rangers. Chris Woods, terrific in goals. He'd, the season before he'd been injured, but and at the start of this season he got injured with his shoulder. But Stevens and Gough and Butcher, fantastic. Pure quality. The whole team.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. And the last
thing I've got to be honest, I think the only thing that you could put against it was there wasn't a strong enough squad. They had 11 players, but the squad wasn't quite as strong as it could have been.
Yeah, which is maybe why they didn't do as well in Europe as I think they should have done, because I think they missed the occasion. Somebody would get suspended or somebody would get injured, and there wasn't
that was it.
Level of player coming in.
That happened the season before, and then that season we were unlucky to draw Bayern Munich in the first round, I think, for what I remember. So.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about this game before I move on, Cheryl on the pod, this was the first game she ever went to. So I remember her telling me her dad took her to this game as her first ever game. So if she watches this episode, I hope that goal brought back some kind of memories for her, because she was just a wee girl at the time.
Do you remember Gascoigne making Gary Lineker be substituted in that game? Gascoigne and Lineker and one of the Rangers players were tussling for the ball right in the touchline in front of the enclosure. And Gascoigne was bent low, and he came up, and his head went straight into Gary Lineker's face, knocked all his teeth out. Lineker get substituted.
No,
he got knocked him out.
He was doing a job for the Rangers even back then.
Yeah, exactly.
So August the 6th, 1989, it was a friendly, but anyone that was there will tell you it was definitely the most enjoyable and competitive friendly that in modern
Very
times,
much.
probably at Ibrox. I don't know about ever, but certainly the ever. So, okay, we're going to move to August the 7th. We're going to come a bit more up to date. So, August the 7th, 2018. Rangers signed Croatian left-back Borna Barisic from Osijek for a fee of around 2.2 million. He'd obviously just played against us for Osijek in the European qualifiers. Barisic eventually became the first choice left-back for most of his Rangers career until he left in 2023. Borna Barisic, what's your
I've got to say, I liked him as a player. I know that he's been accused with the Rangers fans of not being strong enough and maybe hiding in games and things like that. But I thought as a football player he was excellent. He'd obviously the one day a left foot. He maybe didn't show it enough or that, but I think he was a terrific free kick taker. But obviously, with Tavernier was there at the same time, so he took most of the free kicks. But I mean, one of the abiding memories of that the time at Rangers is him crossing for the left and Tavernier scoring from the right. So obviously it took him a while to settle at the club. I think he had a few injuries in his first season, but once he got going, I thought he was good in possession. He wasn't great defensively. I think defenders used to get across him if a ball was coming in from wide. He was kind of slow at reacting. He was waiting for the ball to come to him rather than strikers were getting in front of him. But his delivery was excellent. We scored a lot of goals. Morella scored a lot of goals from his crosses, and I think he was a good, steady player for the most of the time that he was with us. Obviously, Calvin Bassey's came to the fore a bit in the 21-22 season, and that kind of maybe spelled the end for Borna, as they say.
Yeah, well, he stayed a bit longer. I think his first season as a Rangers player, I thought he looked almost intimidated by the club. I thought he struggled to adjust to the size and the expectation at Rangers. And if I remember, Gerrard dropped him for some big games and played the likes of Andy Halliday at left back and John Flanagan at left back. And with the last game of that season, was it Kilmarnock, the day Steve Clarke waved to us and all that rubbish. And he gave a penalty away right at the end of it, Barisic. And at the time, there was quite a lot of supporters who basically said they'd had enough of him. They didn't think he was ever going to be good enough for Rangers. And his Rangers career, for me, turned at the start of the following season when he scored this goal.
Or Barisic. It is Barisic! It is brilliant!
For me, that was the day that his Rangers career took off.
It was, very much. Like I don't think he'd scored for us, but I think that was his first goal, wasn't it, for Rangers? You were saying, So, and into his second season, where he was seen as a really attacking fullback, he'd showed that for us against us in both games, and that goal obviously endeared him to the crowd. It was a game where we were going nowhere, we were never going to score, and just one moment of magic that I think Tav was playing, but I think he was, because it was over that side, he allowed Barisic to take it, and that kind of made him. I think he took a lot of confidence from it, and moved on from there.
Yeah, so from there for the next couple of years, for me, he was an integral part of the way Gerrard wanted to play. Two fullbacks getting forward, two fullbacks getting the ball in the box.
Yep.
As you said, he was a terrific crosser of the ball. Remember the first game he won at Parkhead for a while, he crossed in for Kent to score at one end, and he crossed in for Katic to score at the other end. He was a huge part of it. Quickly give his stats, because I usually do that for these. 236 games, 10 goals, which compared to Tavernier, you think
it's not a great return.
More. 3 of them were penalties, and all of them were scored against Royal Antwerp, which is a really wild statistic.
It is, 2 in the first game and 1 at Ibrox.
Because obviously Tavernier got injured, didn't he? And he played in the 2 games. 1 league title and 1 league cup is all he got in 236 games. He didn't play in the Scottish Cup final. And I suppose there are some people, my son being one of them, who still question Barisic's temperament because he went off near the end of the Seville final when it looked as if it was going to penalties.
Yeah.
And my son's convinced that he was trying to avoid taking a penalty that night.
I've got to say, we remember we had the free kick right on the edge of the box in the last minute extra time, and it was his perfect side for him. And I just wish he'd stayed on it because I think he would have taken the free kick.
Yeah.
Tav took it and the goalie saved it. I just think Barisic would have been a better option at that time. But as you say, you never know. But I don't think he could ever play 120 minutes. I don't think he was built for that.
What I will say in his defence is that he then missed the cup final on the Saturday, so I presume
yes, he did.
He was injured.
He wasn't even in the squad. No,
I assume he was injured. I think that he was an example though of, and there was others like Kent and Morelos who we didn't sell when we could have done, and we ended up getting nothing for him when he eventually did go and freed of a contract. He stayed a year too long, like a number of other players in that era. I think he stayed a year too long.
It's funny, isn't it? His first year was a kind of waste, and his last year was a waste. You know.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure whether he stayed a year too long because the player that was brought in to replace him, Yilmaz, was injured so often that we couldn't afford to let Barisic go.
He wasn't anywhere as good, I don't think. But and obviously he stayed because we sold Bassey after Seville, so there was that would have been the natural left back.
Yeah. But I do think that in terms of his contribution to the season we won the league is, if absolutely nothing else, that's where
that's what you should remember him by.
Rangers player.
Yep, absolutely.
Because him and Tavernier that season were by a country mile the best two fullbacks in the country, by an absolute street.
Yep. Again, no crowd getting on his back, eh?
Well, there's some people would say that. Or some people might say that. So Borna Barisic signed on August the 7th, 2018. 2.2 million, and I suppose if you look at it in those terms, considering the Yilmaz cost double that, he was actually a pretty good value for money.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're now going to go back quite a bit further. Every week we talk about. There's going to be one from yesterday.
The bygone days of yore.
I wish I thought of that. August the 8th, 1931. Rangers beat Dundee 4-1 in the opening day at Ibrox, in a game that saw the debut of a young Northern Irish centre forward by the name of Sam English. He scored twice, and he would go on to set all kinds of records in his debut season as a Rangers player. Sam English, whenever you talk about him, it gets completely overshadowed by one incident and one thing that happened. If I try and part that just for a little tiny minute, Sam English, the centre forward.
Yeah, he must have been some player, eh?
What do the history books tell you about him as a centre forward?
Yeah, to still hold the record for league goals after almost 100 years now, just says it all. And coming straight from junior football to into the Rangers first team, and a very successful Rangers team at the time, and be able to score the amount of goals that he did, which is just phenomenal. He was a player I'd have liked to have seen. Just a big, strong, could head the ball, shoot with both feet, good runner, perfect centre forward. Yeah.
Is there any film exists of him?
There's only film of the incident.
Apart from that, I mean.
Apart from that, no. I don't have any, but there is a couple of bits of the cup finals. I think maybe he played in one of the cup finals, and there's maybe a bit. I've got a clip of that.
I'm just wondering. When you mentioned that, I actually think I don't know if I've ever seen a Sam English goal. I don't know if I've actually seen.
No, I don't. No, I don't give it. No, I've never seen any footage of a goal from him, but. I think that was a day when Movie Tone and Path only went to like cup finals and games and stuff.
Yeah. So his first season 31-32, 44 league goals in 35 games. That's just mind blowing. And it's his first season at the club.
Oh, yeah.
His first season, first team.
Unbelievable. Just imagine how many he'd have got if he'd played that other league game.
Yeah, but it's just and as you say, it's a record that stands to this day for league goals in a season. He actually scored 9 goals in 7 Scottish Cup ties that season as well. Yeah. So 53 goals in 42 games in the 2 main competitions, and that one's absolutely mind blowing. As you say, the top scorer every year at the Rangers awards, the Player of the Year awards, the top scorer gets noted with the Sam English Award. It's got 44 little balls in it. Then they represent one for every league goal he scored that season. But unfortunately, and we can't not mention it. There's no way of not mentioning it. That the season was overshadowed though by the first Old Firm game that he played in, when the Celtic goalkeeper John Thompson ran out as English ran through and goal, dived at English's feet, and his head struck English's knee and fractured his skull, and unfortunately he was killed. It's really difficult to say there was 2 victims of that incident, because obviously John Thompson died, and by far the tragedy of the whole thing. But Sam English's entire football career and life was then overshadowed by that incident, wasn't it?
Very much so, very much. I don't think he ever, obviously he went on and scored all the goals in the season, but I think the weight on his shoulders eventually took its toll. You know, there's a fantastic book that was written by a good friend of ours, Jeff Holmes, Tortured, the Sam English story. If you've not got it, you should buy it and read it. It's a fantastic book. So if you want to know about Sam English's story and how it affected him, and how in later life he struggled with it, then you need to go and read that book. But I know that he said in later life he couldn't cope with the abuse that he got from the supporters of other clubs, during games. So eventually, obviously, after a couple of years, he moved down to Liverpool, and his career was never quite the same again. No,
it was almost like a sign of the times type thing. Then that, because there was no television then, and because there was hardly film anything, there was no instant news.
No,
it relied on word of mouth a lot of the time, and people started to believe that he'd kicked John Thompson in the head.
In the head, yeah. When you see the footage, it's just totally not true. But obviously, like, the only way that the people of that era would have seen that is if they went to the cinema, because they would show the movie tone reels and all this before the movies. So that was the only way that MD would see that. But again, and obviously the Celtic manager's comment that he hoped it was an accident didn't help anything.
And that was at the fatal accident inquiry that Willie made.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've been to the library and read through the papers of the time, and there was never any in the days after, there was never any aspersions cast against English. Everyone thought it was an accident. Everyone knew it was an accident.
Even John Thompson's family made a point of saying it, and I actually got photographed with them to try and show that they were no wilder.
Yeah,
it was, but that young man ended up getting abuse everywhere he went, and I think it just, as you say, it just took his toll. He ended up his second season at Rangers. He was a shadow of the player he was in his first season.
Yep.
Bill Struth eventually just decided to let him go down south to try and get away from it all.
Yeah, it was to help him, I think. It was. Yeah, and obviously Rangers had Jimmy Smith as well as a striker who would go on to be our second greatest goal scorer ever. But it was very sad what happened. As you say, there were 2 victims. One obviously sadly lost his life, but the other one lost his career. Yeah,
and I think to finish on what. I keep going back to maybe what Rangers could have had if that incident hadn't happened. Now, you're right, we ended up with a centre forward who scored all kinds of goals. It scored an incredible number of goals anyway in Jimmy Smith. But another great book is Bob McPhail's book, the one that came out about 2000.
The best ever Rangers book.
I think it's as good a Rangers book as I've ever read.
Yeah.
And he's asked in it who the best centre forward was that he either played with or against. and he talked about Hughie Gallagher and Dixie Dean and Jimmy Smith and Jimmy Fleming. But he said Sam English was the best centre forward, but he just didn't play with him long enough because of what happened.
Yep. Yeah, that's some accolade then from Gentleman Bob.
Absolutely. So August the 8th, 1931, and just to finish on that, Stephen, you managed to find this incredible picture. This is Sam English scoring on his debut.
It's him scoring his debut against Dundee. Rangers won 4-1. This is English's first goal of the game, down at the I think it's down at the Rangers end. Oh no, sorry, it's down at Brimlone end. That's the enclosure as it was at the time. And I think it was Rangers were already 1-up at the time, and it was a cross from McPhail, and English headed it in. So
that was the first of 44 league goals. First of a record 44 league goals in a season. So Sam English, and I totally echo what you said earlier on. If anyone wants to find out more about the story about Sam English, because we've done it nowhere near justice just in the 5-minute chat, Jeff Holmes' book is one of the best Rangers books, biography books that you'd ever likely to find. So his debut was on August the 8th, 1931. We're going to go to another debut. one that I think a lot of people will remember. August the 9th, 1986. And I'm actually just going to put the picture up straight away. So, because everyone's going to know straight away what it is when I talk about it. August the 9th, 1986. The first competitive match for Graham Souness as Rangers player-manager at Easter Road, when he was sent off towards the end of the first half in a 2-1 defeat by Hibs. Were you there that day, Stephen?
No, I was working that day. I was at a time when I was working every Saturday, so I wasn't there that day. No, I was going to the home games as much as I could at the time, but
I was
work. I'm afraid took over.
I was in that absolutely packed Rangers end that day. Sun was absolutely splitting the sky.
Yeah.
I've got 24,500 was the official attendance.
Aye.
The previous time Rangers had been to Easter Road, the season before, 10,800.
Yeah, and there seemed a lot more than 24,500 there as well from the
24,000.
I mean, remember the game we won the league in '75 when they said it was like 38,000 and 100,000. So but obviously there was a lot of excitement about the game. We just played Bayern Munich at home in the friendly a few days beforehand, and at the start of the season we were going to get off to a start, and Souness was going to be the main man to show us what he could do, and he did in some ways. It just going, if you have a look at that picture, if you've got shiny thighs that look like that, you've got to wear short shorts, don't you? I mean, it just looked so much like a star football player with the perm hair and the moustache. He just looked like an Italian god. Leading out outside.
He became my absolute idol. If I quickly talk about the game itself, I'll just very quickly talk about it. So, Hibs scored first. Rangers got a penalty just a couple of minutes later. McCoist equalised. Then came the sending off. The sending off was, let's say, Souness was already on a yellow card, so I don't think there's any way he could have survived the incident. I remember my dad afterwards talking about it, because the referee was called Delaney, Mike Delaney.
Oh yeah.
I was going to send Souness off. There's no way in this earth he shouldn't have been sent off. He get dispossessed, a bit of pushing and shoving, and he kicked George McCluskey. There's no other way of putting it. Now, I don't know whether he wanted to try and engender a bit of togetherness and team bonding and team spirit out in the pitch or something, because every Rangers player bar one then get involved in this big melee with just about every Hibs player bar one. Remember, 21 players ended up getting disciplinary points added on.
That's right, yeah. There was 9 booked in the game, but then everyone got a retrospective booking. Apart from who was the Rangers player that didn't?
No, every Rangers player did. The only one that didn't was Alan Ruff.
He couldn't because he'd been booked in the penalty incident, Alan Ruff. Yeah, so he couldn't go.
Bobby Russell didn't get involved in it.
Yeah,
and I thought it was quite interesting that Bobby Russell never played a domestic game again for Rangers under Souness. He got dropped for the Wednesday night. Cammy Fraser came in to replace him on the Wednesday.
That's right, against Falkirk.
Yeah, and I always wondered whether Souness decided that he didn't man the trenches for him.
Could well be, because I think it was quite a surprise that Russell played in the first game. I think if you asked Rangers supporters to go back and name their team for the Souness's first league match in charge, nobody would get Bobby Russell. So
and a lot of people would probably say David Cooper, but he didn't play. He was suspended.
He was suspended from his previous season. So
Ed McMinn played that day. Yeah, so all was well that ended well, I suppose. The league was ended up winning, and strangely enough, on the day we won it, he went and done it again, didn't he?
He did. Well, we were talking earlier on about Barisic's temperament. Every big games, like the Celtic game, the start of the following season, the Aberdeen game to win the league, and his first ever game. As soon as we get sent off in the first, I think it was the first half of the first two games, and the Celtic game was just the start of the second half.
Just in it, yeah.
But that was. And all for pretty shocking tackles to be honest.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but,
and then he doesn't get sent off for the worst tackle he ever did either. So story. But
yeah, so that was a day I thought that looking back, it was a day that a team started to mould together.
Yeah.
But I remember going home for Easter Road that day, totally depressed that we'd lost again, thinking we're spending all that money. How could Hibs beat us?
Yeah.
But and we lost a few games at the start of last season. Remember Dundee beat us.
United.
Oh my. Motherwell beat us, but so I remember we didn't go off to the best of starts, but all was well that ended well, and I ended up naming my son after him, so I must have forgiven him eventually.
Well, my son's named after him as well. His middle name, Graham, with a AEME spelling, so I did the same. Yep. My son was born in 1990, and as soon as left just after it.
I'm the same. My son was the end of 1990, and he was away within 4 months.
4 months, yeah.
So anyway, August the 9th, 1986, possibly the most infamous Rangers debut in recent history, I would probably suggest.
Do you remember Ali McCoy doing his fly punch on Mark Fulton, and Colin West got the blame?
Colin West got the blame, yeah. August the 10th, we're going to end up.
Yeah.
I'm going to come a bit more up to date again. So we're in 2011, August 10th, 2011. Algerian international defender Majid Bouguera ends his time at Rangers by signing for Lequia of Qatar for £1.7 million. Obviously, he must take good money there, because I can't think of any other reason why he left Rangers to go there.
Nice weather.
Yeah, but Majid Bouguera, so signed from Charlton. We had just lost Carlos Cuellar, who was an absolute hero to support.
Yep.
Cuellar was a tremendous defender. We had just lost to Kaunas in the Champions League qualifier, and we got knocked out of Europe before Europe had even started almost. We'd lost the league right at the end of the previous season, the Manchester season. There was a little bit of unrest with Cuellar going. Bouguera coming in to replace him. He was a tremendous replacement, wasn't he?
He was terrific player for Rangers. Yeah, absolutely. It's 3 seasons, 3 league titles, so can't complain about that. He was a good forward-thinking defender. He would do his magic sorties up the park, and he became famous. But obviously, there was an economic downturn at the time, and obviously we had to accept the money for Cuellar. If you look at it now, you wouldn't want to sell him after just 1 season, but we didn't have any choice. And to get Bouguera from Charlton was it 2 million, something like 2.2?
2 million, yeah.
All right, it was a great piece of business. Obviously, it wasn't quite in the same mould, and he did have a bit of a temper on him as well. So, but which is good to see, like he didn't take prisoners.
Yeah, I thought he was a tremendous foil for Davie Weir. I thought that
he could do his running.
So beautiful together. You had the calm, steady, experienced, out and out defender, somebody who could just take a step back and sweep up behind anything that's going wrong. And then you had the kind of almost like a madman beside him.
Yeah, crazy horse,
unpredictable. but at the same time, he was also a really good defender. He had that turn of pace. I thought the two of them dovetailed really, really well together, and it's right that they won 3 league titles because they made the best defence in Scotland for all 3 of those seasons.
The only time we didn't look as secure was he was injured for quite a bit of the second season, and we weren't as steady as we were when he was there, and that shows you the quality of player when he's obviously missed when he's not there.
Throw his stats in as I usually do. So, as you say, 3 full seasons. Then he played just a couple of games under McCoist before he left. 113 games, only once as a substitute, which I think again tells you about how important he was to the team. Just the 5 goals, but 3 league titles, 1 Scottish Cup, 1 League Cup. Yeah, he obviously missed a League Cup final through injury. He'd have had another one. Of the 5 goals, there's only 1 that we can show really, isn't there? It's unusual for a centre half to win goal of the season.
Yep, and that's what he did.
But in 2009-10 season, Majid Bugera won goal of the season for this absolute stunner against Dundee United.
Strong play there from McCulloch, now from Bugera. Off he goes again on one of those charging runs. Wants to go all the way himself, clearly. Oh, this will be classic. Oh, it's brilliant. Absolutely sensational.
Jock Brown getting excited there, eh?
I know. I suppose it is. I suppose if you're going to go on a mazy run like that, you might as well do it when you're 5-1 up, I suppose.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, God, you forget that Chris Boyd scored 5 goals that night and broke Henrik Larsson's league scoring record in the same game because everyone just remembers Bagheera's goal.
That was a sensational goal. Actually, to be honest with you, the only other real goal I remember him scoring was in Stuttgart in the Champions League. I remember he scored a really important goal over there.
Goal, yeah. He scored twice at Easter Road, I remember. Once a header, one and one a right foot shot. And his other goal escapes me.
I can't remember. I've not got it written down there, so I'm not going to remember. Right. We're going to say his temperament was the one thing maybe that would prevent him becoming a much loved Rangers player of the past, if you know, because he had this habit of getting away with Algeria and coming back late.
Coming back late was his downfall a couple of times. He did it. No, he didn't just do it once, you know. So I think he quite enjoyed his.
If you talk about when he went away with Algeria, he played for Algeria in the World Cup against England in 2010, and he was outstanding. He was outstanding.
Yeah, he was at top of his form then. The time with Rangers, I think it was his best spell. But again, you're talking about his temperament. His last game for Rangers, he gets sent off with a straight elbow in the guy's face. Remember him giving away a penalty against Motherwell at the start of one of the seasons, and when we were about 5 minutes to go, and him not accepting the card he was getting and manhandling the referee, and obviously gets sent off as well as giving away a penalty. And then he did the same at Parkhead when he took who was it, Callum Murray's card out his hand when he was trying to book him.
That was that night. Juff gets sent off as well.
Whittaker as well.
Whittaker, that's what it was. Yeah. He had his mad moments, but you can't argue what he achieved. You can't argue what he achieved as a Rangers player.
No. Five winners' medals, and I think he played in another couple of losing finals as well. So.
Yeah. And I think the modern Rangers fan would bite your hand off for another centre back with the quality he had.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe McCann will be that.
Let's hope so.
You never know. Hopefully his visa will come through and we'll get a chance to play him.
It's through.
Is it? I've never noticed that. Good.
So August the 10th, 2011, the end of the Rangers career, the colourful Rangers career of Majid Bugera. That takes us to the end of another week in history, Stephen. How was that for you?
That passed fairly quick, didn't it? It's great talking about things that we love and enjoy. I hope the listeners enjoy it as well.
Absolutely. So we'll be back next Tuesday from August the 11th onwards. We won't surprise you. We'll surprise you with it, so I'm not going to give you any little sneak previews of that one yet. So just to finish, to thank all our sponsors, to thank everyone who watches. If you do enjoy the podcast, it would be great if you could leave some comments for us, because we always read them, and it's always good to see if we're doing something right or something wrong as far as the viewers are concerned. And until next week, and next time on This Week in History, from myself and from Stephen, enjoy your week, and we'll see you again in 7 days. Bye for now.
The Four Lads Rangers podcast is proudly sponsored by Candid, LBJ Consultants, CBD Oil Scotland, Elite Scooters Scotland, and Metaclad, Four Lads exclusive roofing partner. The Aesthetics Lounge by Sharon, Denhay, the quintessential British bacon. Thank you to all our sponsors, and in partnership with Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and Rangers Youth Development Company. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.